a lot of women over 40, 50, 60 plus, you sort of feel like you're intruding in on whatever conversation is being had, or you just feel like you're not wanted. You know, it's just an odd feeling.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I am Teri and you're watching Talking with Teri TV. As women age, we're often seen as not as being as valuable or relevant in our careers. This is not the case for men. One woman who has been very impactful in the fight against gender ageism is pro-age speaker and founder of SecondActWomen. Barbara Brooks is here. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm super excited.
You can also say I'm 57.
She's 57. I love it. Fantastic.
Yes.
Good for you. Embrace it. Own it.
Embrace it.
So you started the SecondActWomen. So tell us a little bit about that, how that came about and how you started that journey.
Whew. So Teri, I couldn't get hired. That's actually how the company started. I had an idea for years of being a business owner, of bringing together women or community or creating some sort of an event company. And so, but I had that on the shelf. I kept it on the shelf for so many years, but I kept talking to people about it. And then, 2018, after being a business owner from 2011 to 2018, I said I was 51 and I was ready to go back to work. I was ready to go back to work for a company, I should say.
Right.
Because I had magnificent clients, my business partner and I did. But I wanted something steady. I was single. I had a home. I have a large responsibility of a 5-pound dog. And so I wanted consistency in my life at 51. I was hitting something, I guess, in my head. I don't know what it was. But I just wanted change and I wanted to go back into corporate America. So I interviewed. And sent, I can't even tell you how many resumes. I literally can't tell you how many resumes. And I probably got a couple of interviews, which in the past, prior to that, I would nail the interview. I'd get the interview, I'd nail it. And if I didn't get the job, I was coming in second at least.
Yeah.
And so suddenly something's happening. I'm not even getting the interview.
Interesting.
And then I'm getting ghosted, And so I told my former business partner, because at the time we had consciously uncoupled, we both said we were going to go our separate way after having a couple of companies together. And so I said, Lupe, I'm having trouble with this. She was too. She was actually trying to go into corporate for the first time in her adult life, because she'd been an entrepreneur since college, after college. So I just, honestly, I think it was attending a women's event. And then also, I really think it was the Lord who said, all right, you need to probably take that idea off the shelf. You just went to a highly successful women's event, and that spurred a fire. It just got this fire inside of me that said, all right, I'm going to take this idea. And then, because I'm a marketer and a PR person by trade, I believe in research and listening to the customer. So I decided, I didn't know what the company was going to be. I knew it was going to do events, again, for women or humans. And so I brought a couple of groups of different kinds of women from different parts of my background. Some of them were in their 20s and 30s because they were my interns or worked for me at some point. And so I kept hearing something resonate with the women, of which 80, 90% were over 40. And I started hearing in my head, there wasn't something just for them.
Yeah.
And that when they did go to events, and these were women who came from corporate backgrounds and also business owners. And what I kept hearing is when they do go, whether they're corporate conferences or conferences for business owners or whatever it may be, they felt out of the loop. They felt like they were being shunned. I hate to use that word, but they felt as if they weren't being seen or heard, and that there were cliques, and they weren't a part of those cliques.
I've been in multiple experiences where it's been very cliquey, and from an outsider stepping into that, it's really hard to connect with that.
It's very hard to connect because you can, for some, if not a lot of women over 40, 50, 60 plus, you sort of feel like you're intruding in on whatever conversation is being had, or you just feel like you're not wanted. You know, it's just an odd feeling.
Yeah.
So then I decided with those same women, I'm so lucky that I have the most amazing humans around me that come from all these different backgrounds. Not all of them know each other, which is kind of the beauty of getting older. There's a lot of beauty in getting older, are these connections and these banks of friends that we have. And so all of them, I'm going to use an analogy, decided to make a deposit into what I was doing and become a volunteer for this thing that I was going to create. And originally it was going to be Women's Business Week. So I bought up all the URLs, womensbusinessweek.com, .this, .that, and I wanted that to be a South by Southwest / Denver Startup Week, but on a very small scale for women. Because I Googled and I saw that there wasn't that for women. And then again, when we landed on, wait a minute, there needs to be something for these women over 40, that's when this group of women said, we're going to volunteer, we'll figure it out. I landed on it. Actually, the company had several names, and I landed on SecondActWomen. And because that's what we're in our encore part of life. And just kind of went from there.
And so the ageism that you experience got transformed into helping support other women going through the exact same thing, right?
Yes. It's in my DNA because of what I've always seen my mom do throughout her entire life was to help other people, regardless. If my mother had $5 left in her pocket because she was a single mom, she was giving that to someone. It's someone else who she thought may need that more. And so I just thought, okay, if I'm experiencing this, and then these 20 or so women, there's got to be something that we can do. And at the time, this is 2018, now 2019, when I launched my first conference, it was actually Second Act period. And it was Second Act BizCon. It was going to be Second Act this, that, and the other. And then we landed on SecondActWomen because I needed to literally say what I'm going to do and what the volunteers are going to be doing. We're doing this for you, women, in middlescence, so to speak.
Love it. I love it.
And so we launched with BizLifeCon, which women weren't buying those tickets to go to the first event. And I think it's because age was, suddenly there's this event that was going to recognize that they're an age that they don't want to recognize maybe internally. And now, what am I supposed to do with this? Is this an event that I'm now going to have to admit my age or whatever? So the first event, BizLifeCon, was almost, I wouldn't scrap anything. So
well, it's a learning curve.
Anytime
we try something new, there's a learning curve. We are on a student path or a master path, and so we've got to get our swimmer's legs. And so even if it's 5 or 6 people, we're learning, it's our prototype, and it's like, okay, what's working, what's not working. So I think it's valuable lessons,
Valuable. And so what happened was we had all these amazing sponsors. We had Microsoft. We had citywide banks give us money. We had Colorado Biz Magazine, the publisher, say, we get you. We had DU, the women's college. The dean supported us and actually was going to lead a session, 2 events at the event. And we had to, a week before we're launching this Second Act company, we had to make an executive decision. We, as in, a little bit ago, I told you about Lupe, my business partner, and how we had consciously uncoupled. Well, by then, I'd say a couple of months into me saying, I'm going to do this thing, you want to come back? We want to do this together? She said, you know what, I have time, but I can only give you 20% of my time. And that was in 2018. By February, she's giving me 100%. She's
perfect.
I experienced it. I'm in. I'm all in.
I love it.
So when I say we, it's now Lupe and I have the company. And so we called our sponsors that Friday. The event was supposed to be that following week. And we said, will you back us if we move it a month? We need a little bit more time for marketing, campaigning, PR, just something. And all of them said, we get it. Yes. The art hotel that we were holding it at said, yeah, let's find a day that we'll push it. And guess what happened? We did a lot more campaigning. We had our volunteers doing what they can do, our sponsors doing what they can do. And this is where I hope I can hold on to my lashes. We ended up the week before the, Biz LiveCon, hitting 100. And then the night before we hit 139.
Perfect. Love it. Wow. Success. Huge.
A success.
And it's paving the way for your mission and your statement there.
Yeah.
And so let me ask you this, like what, we were talking about ageism, right? And I think that like, I was telling our producer that like, I experienced ageism in the reverse.
Yes.
And so it was interesting. So when I was getting out into my career, I looked very young. And so people wouldn't give me the time of day because I looked so young. And so then I kept saying, okay, I need to make myself look older. Do I need to get different shoes? Do I need to put glasses on? How do I make myself? And it was funny because like when my daughter was in second grade, I remember the teacher taking a picture of us together and I started like manifesting wrinkles. And I was like, what? I look old. And so I'm like, this is not what I wanted.
TikTok was around back then.
I know,
you could have made some.
I know, right? But I was like, wait, this is not what I want to do. Why am I, I'm like pretty much, I was aging myself. And I was like, no, let's reverse this. But it was really interesting, my journey, because the ageism was in reverse in a way, because I looked too young. Yes. And so it wasn't until, and it was funny because like,
you're not being taken serious.
I'm not being taken serious.
Yeah.
And it was funny because like when we would have these conversations, and it was mostly I was connecting with doctors, and so and doctors would start to go around this line of questioning, and as soon as they went down this line of questioning, I knew. So how I combated it was I would either I'd had two responses, and because I just led with humor, right? So my first response was, I know you look, I know I look young. I said, I have a fantastic plastic surgeon. And it would cut the ice and then they'd be like, oh. Yeah. And then it would soothe it a little bit more. And so and then we could have a conversation.
Yes.
Because I think that's what they kept. And then the other response I came up with was, I was like, oh, yeah, I know I look young. But I said, when I'm in the nursing home and I'm 90, I'm looking 70, I'm going to rock that nursing home, right? Like, right. But it was just one of those things that it was, it was a barrier.
Ageism.
It was a barrier that I had to address to figure out how do we overcome this, right?
Which is too bad. And it's interesting because I was talking with someone out of the UK. Mm-hmm. She has a company called The Bias Cut, and she's in her early to mid 30s. And she has a podcast called Ageism is Never in Style. We were talking about the idea that the UK has a policy, the country itself, their discrimination laws say age as a whole. Mm-hmm. There's no limit. In the US, it's 40. That's when age discrimination is, it comes into play. Right. And there's actually law that says you cannot ask for, especially in Colorado now, you can't ask for an age. Yeah. You don't, here, thankfully, you don't need to put when you graduated from high school or college or any of those things. Yeah. And so it's interesting because we had a conversation about, is it fair to have just age as a whole covered because of reverse ageism, or is it fair because of the 40s? And I stood on the cusp of, I don't know, because now that I'm over 50 and now over 55, and now have heard the stories of so many women over 40 or 45 saying it's hard to get a job, especially those of us over 50. Yeah. My heart was more pulling towards the over 40, but then I get it.
And here's the thing.
Because I remember not being taken care of. And I'm, almost 6 feet. Yeah. And even still, I had, back then we would say a younger face or I have a younger sense of how I carried myself, and so I wasn't taken serious. We have to
take a quick break, but I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about this because I think things are changing in a really positive, powerful way. So we're going to come back with Barbara Brooks in just a minute and hear how we can, as women of any age, confront ageism, whether we're working for a company, a corporation, or even in our own businesses. We'll be right back.
I'm Jeffrey Bowling, owner and jewelry designer at Jeffrey B. Jewelers, Denver's #1 jewelry design studio. And the reason why we're #1 is because of our 3D custom jewelry design. We can show you what your piece is going to look like way before the end product. And this is going to give you the comfort of knowing you get exactly what you want.
He took me over to the computer and we started drawing up exactly what I wanted. And I told my husband, I'm like, Jeffrey B is the person we're going to use.
And the other reason is that all of our gold and our diamonds are ethically sourced. So when you're ready to make that proposal, when you're ready for that legacy piece, go to jeffreyb.com and make an appointment. Because when it's love, it's Jeffrey B.
Welcome back. We're here with Barbara Brooks talking about ageism. And what I think is so powerful is that I do see a shift in things. My experience, and I've spoke to so many different business owners that are just done, I'll be honest, with the millennials. Like, because I'm serious, like it has become such a challenge having the mindset, right? And I do think people are seeking out people that have more experience. In that way, they have a value system, a strong value system. They have a strong moral compass, and they are ready to work, wanting to work. They want to show up to work. And that is, in some ways, the more experienced individual who are the 50, 60, even 70-year-olds, right? I remember my favorite employee of pretty much all time. She was in her early 60s, and just she became my best employee, right? And so having that experience, I'm like, oh my gosh, like experience for me pays off, you know?
So it's interesting you should say that, because one of the things that I actually tell my my community is to not disparage other generations, because that was us.
And
I'm
I'm
not
trying to
disparaging, by the way.
yeah.
You're not disparaging.
But I think that as owners right now, the
Yes.
hot button right now is beyond like frustrating.
Yes.
And I'm not going to put everyone in that pool of like all millennials or this, or all Gen X's or all Gen X or
Right.
Gen Z's or Gen whatever. But I do think employers right now, the hot button
They're
right
getting
now,
it. They're getting it. They understand.
they're super frustrated with just like certain
quitting,
type,
the ghosting.
the quitting, the not even showing up, the lack of work ethic, the lack of, or just like on the other side of this, the extreme entitlement. And so I think employers are getting really frustrated. And so that's been so much the buzz in the last like 6 months to 9 months, I would say, is employers. I talk a lot to business owners, and they're just like, I'm frustrated. Like, I need someone who I can rely on, that I can trust, that I can, that they can be loyal to the company.
Right.
Because I think the average stay in employment right now, my neighbor who works with a lot of HR, she said, do you know what the average stay in employment right now is?
I'm curious.
Less than 18 months. Less than 18
See, you know
months.
what's interesting? Because I just heard 18 months yesterday watching Good Morning America on people that are answering phones, customer service reps. I didn't realize, but that does make sense. I will tell you, I think there is something to be said with, yes, having still all 5 generations in the workplace, because obviously that's what's happening now.
And there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn
on both sides.
And right? Like, and I still have millennials on my team. I still have Gen X's. I still have a variety of people on my team.
And Zennials. The Zennials that are coming
What are Zennials?
Those are the teens to the early
Okay. Those
20s.
are those are Gen Zers, right? Gen Zs, right?
Well, there's Gen Z, and then there's Zennials.
Oh, I don't know what Zennials
So actually,
are.
I think the Zennials, so don't quote us, is actually maybe the teens and so Zennial, it goes.
I don't know this.
Boomers, well, and then there's I forgot what they call
Gen,
like my mom.
Yeah, I think
it's got a IAL in it. But there's the boomers. So there's my mom who's 86. There's boomers, which she's sort of in that. And then there's Gen X, and then millennials, and then there's Z, and now there's Xennials.
Okay, Xennials.
I know.
Fancy.
I don't know what's next. I heard Alpha. I'm not kidding. I heard Alpha or
but
something.
But I do think that there's new learnings in this, because it is forcing old school processes and changing the systems and finding new ways. And I think that's very innovative, right? Like, that's very innovative. It's taking a new mindset look at things. But I think that's where I think there are challenges around the multiple generations.
Yeah, and I think what it is it's all the power skills. We don't call them soft skills anymore.
Oh, they're power skills.
Power skills, and that we learned as Gen Xers from using the fax machines, but the power skills are more about the like the values, the experience, and the judgment that we bring, the heck, the bank of contacts that
Yeah.
we bring, just a variety of things that are not innately, you can't learn those.
Yeah.
Those are just things that we
Got
sort of
passed on to
got
it.
passed
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
from our parents. And so, so it's interesting to hear that, because I love hearing what people are actually saying
heartbeat,
that are
yeah.
out there. And that's good news for us that are
I just
that
heard
are
it yesterday.
millennials
I just heard
and
it yesterday.
Gen
Yeah,
Xers
yeah.
and boomers, because
Mhm.
you know, we have to remember millennials are our doctors. So they're in their 40s now. So they
Yeah.
are going through the high millennials.
Yeah.
And so I have to say, though, the reason why I encourage intergenerational teams for companies, because hopefully the power skills, aka soft skills, will be transferred down to those Zennials and the early on millennials and the Zennials that are coming into the workplace. So I think it's really important. Plus, again, we just mentioned earlier the learning on both sides.
Yeah.
So we could be the mentors, but we can also still be mentored by,
True.
you know, I will say, the one thing that I hate that they say about Gen X is that we don't want to learn tech, or that we're lazy, or that we're ready to retire. That is far from the
true.
truth.
Yeah.
I was literally feeling as if even at 51, 40, 45, 35, that I was starting anew.
Yeah.
And now that I'm 57, and here's what we have to remember. We are analog natives. So for anybody to say that Gen Xers don't know tech or don't like tech is, I'm not going to curse, but it's BS.
Right.
Because we're the ones who created, you know, Microsoft, Apple,
right.
all the tech that's coming up now. We're Gen Xers.
Yeah.
And maybe some boomers as well.
Yeah.
So it really drives me, and you're talking to someone who, again, at 57, loves new technology. If there's something new, I'm on it. I'm in that Play Store.
Yeah.
Or I'm, you know, online uploading Chat GPT and just whatever I can.
So let me ask you this before we wrap up. What are some tips and tricks or just things that we should be aware of in the workforce, or, you know, when we're confronting ageism?
Sometimes it's the unspoken things that are said to us. I think when it comes to ageism, I wish I was a little bit more aware of it, even in my 40s. So I think it's really important that if you get this gut feeling, or you don't feel heard, if you feel undervalued, if you just feel that you don't really mean much to your company, or to your clients or whomever it may be, you need to start a log. I hate to be that person. This isn't, you know, trolling out or anything like that. I hate trolls. This is you just listening and making notes of who said what and when. Yeah. And taking that to your manager if you feel comfortable.
Yeah, and I think this, having conversations, documenting.
You have to have the conversation.
And I think we were talking offline, documentation on both parties, right?
You have to have the documentation.
And I think it's protecting the company, but it's also protecting the employee.
Yeah, because
and making sure that it opens up the dialogue of communication, ideally.
Yeah, because we are a protected class. And when by we, I'm not saying because I'm a Black woman, I'm saying humans over 40, again, in America, we are a protected class when it comes to ageism. And you have every right to have that job, to stay on that job. You have every right to land that client as a business owner at 50, at 40, at 67. And because you're going to experience maybe some ageism too when it comes to you as a business owner. Yeah. Someone may think you don't have the tech skills, or you don't know what's new and hot, and you don't know how to drive a marketing campaign.
All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap up today? Because we could talk about this topic all day long.
We could talk about it.
Yes.
I think it's really important that if you are in corporate America and you're a business owner as well, I want to read this act that starts July 1st in Colorado.
Okay.
I love our governor. So it's the Job Application Fairness Act, and I love this. It takes effect July 1st of this year. It aims to fight against age discrimination by making it very illegal for companies to inquire about your age, your date of birth, dates of high school graduation or college, attendance, any of that. That is not allowed. That shouldn't be asked.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be verbally asked, nor should that be on an application. And it says because 40% of hiring managers admit to reviewing resumes and seeing those things. That's the reason why this Senate Bill 58 is in place. So it's really important that
and that
you
has been
understand.
passed, right? That
This has been passed,
okay.
and it takes effect July 1st.
Interesting.
And one more thing. Own your number. When you go in, if you're in corporate America or you're a business owner, and I say that because this act also, a part of this is, in Colorado, you have to say how much the job range. So that company has to say what their budget is for that salary. So if that salary is 80 to 120, ladies and gents, go in for the 120. Because what I'm hearing is, and know your number, know you really are going to land
the
at
non-negotiable.
110 or whatever your number is.
True.
Go in for the highest because that's what they budgeted for. Go in for that and hold it and be quiet.
Love
Do
it.
not
That's such a great tip.
undervalue yourself by saying why
That's
you
such a
need
great
that
tip.
number.
Yes. Well, this has been absolutely delightful. We could go on forever. Okay, where can people find you and hear more about Second Act Women?
Yes, SecondActWomen.com, spelled out, SecondActWomen.com. But also we have a beautiful community online. It's a global community online inside of Facebook. There's about 5,200 of us that are talking mental health, menopause, work, careering, encore careers, everything.
Love it.
Jokes.
Love it.
I mean,
I love it.
Not jokes about aging.
Make sure that you check out Second Act Women. I am so excited that you joined us for this episode. Thanks for tuning in today. And as always, be bold, be brave, be fearless, be the magic of you. We'll see you on the next episode. Massive love. Thank you for joining me today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell to find out about my upcoming shows. Thank you for tuning in today, and I'll see you next time.